a very, very, very happy Tuesday and welcome here on the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin and we are live here on our YouTube channel. Thank everyone for tuning in today. Please be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Have those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. And we got a lot to get down and cover for you guys in this hour. So let's not waste any time and get right into it. Today's episode, we'll take a look at what's going on a sports U-Haul as the minor league teams are set to begin their next series. We'll look at that heading into today. Happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone. Um, Everyone that's out there who celebrates the Day of the Dead. It's a Mexican heritage, cultural tradition out here. And, it's a time, if you haven't gotten a chance to learn about uh the heritage, the tradition, this is the time to do so. Really encourage you in doing so. Just to know a little bit more. Just that next time you go out there and you want to celebrate today, it's not just about drinking. It's not just about the fancy foods. There's a lot more to it, so to speak. Um, Cinco de Mayo is today. Very happy Cinco de Mayo. I thought yesterday on Star Wars night on May the 4th be with you in the sense, I would have watched a little bit more Star Wars. Did not watch a single ounce of Star Wars last night. Very, very disappointed in myself. Had a lot of stuff to get on. It's a lot of stuff to do. Um, Today we'll talk about the Cincinnati Reds. I got some questions, some big questions to ask, and you know what? We're a month into baseball, and is the Cincinnati Reds a contending team? Despite being 20-15, despite being in third place in the NL Central, the ultimate question, if you look at the Reds today, are they a contending team in the league? Can they go toe to toe with the other teams in Major League Baseball? Or are they just one of those statistic teams who go out there in the month of April, have themselves a phenomenal outing, and now we're seeing the resemblance of where they struggle? At this part of the season, we are kind of stuck in a crossroads. We're trying to, we're pessimistic, yet again, we're optimistic. We're trying to tell ourselves, this is just a series, this is just a phase. Every good team goes down this rabbit hole, but then every team also has this moments where they shine. But the question we got to ask ourselves as Reds fans, as we lost again last night, that is now 4 in a row, and it's all against our division rivals. But have we seen the best from the Reds, or is there still greatness yet to come? That is the question that I'm eager to ask you guys, listeners. Let me know down in the comments below. I'm really intrigued into asking because, you know, I don't know what part of me is staying excited into the game. I watched the game last night, and we're actually we'll dive into details into the game, and it was a fun game to watch. Chicago, it was an hour and a half delay start. I honestly felt as if this was a playoff game last night. Very big, a lot of high stipulations leading into this early series of the year. And they got out to an early lead. Chase Petty had a great outing. He gives up one home run, which some runners on base, ties the game. Very close, comes down to the ninth inning. We go ahead and score the go-ahead run, and we have it in the palm of our hands. We win a lot of one-run ball games, and yet we ended up giving it up, and by a pitcher named Emilio Pagan. And now, if you went into the ninth inning excited saying you're hopeful, you remain optimistic that the Reds could prevail and hold off this victory. That's what I went into last night. But I knew the damper was so big when they gave up and they tied the ball game that I turned it off. I say, you know what? If at best they will be in extra innings, I will tune back in a few minutes. And that wasn't the case. Next thing you know, I see a home run from Chicago. The game's over. The Cubs won. And so my big thing is now we have to start talking some big boy conversations about the Cincinnati Reds. And is this just a rabbit hole that we are soon to get out of, or is this what's to come the remainder of the season? All right, let's get down into WWE. Monday Night Raw was last night. The final go-home show before WWE Backlash takes place this Saturday, May the 9th in Tampa, Florida. The contract signing between Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns left Jacob putting Roman through the table. The build-up, the anticipation of Jacob Fatu almost leads to you that he has the upper leverage heading into Backlash. Now, developing stories in the WWE as spring releases has submerged, as apparently now, as we learned yesterday that Roman Reigns has been written off for whatever apparent reasons, and with in the month of June, some linger that acquisition compared to the Saudi Arabia trip and Night of Champions at the end of the month. But the big controversial over this statement has to come from the fact that at WrestleMania 42, Roman Reigns announced that he will be here throughout the summertime. And June is the clear beginning of summer. And so we're not going to see Roman Reigns at June. And is there anything more to this than what meets the eye? Or maybe we are all, as fans, are maybe panicking just a little bit, over exaggerating the statement that's right in front of us. Maybe there is a logical good reason on why Roman Reigns will not be in Saudi Arabia. I mentioned yesterday, WrestleMania 43 is expected to take place in Saudi Arabia. Just so happens maybe you pull Roman. Maybe this is a much bigger plan than what meets the eye. I kind of figure, all right, well, if a main event is set to be in Saudi Arabia next year, a big phenomenon, big entity, Roman Reigns is on that match card. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what it looks like. But do you want Roman and Saudi now, or do you want Roman to build up for Saudi at Mania? Maybe I'm just not logically thinking here. You tell me. Maybe there is a purpose on why Roman will not be there in the month of June. What we do know is that he has a World Heavyweight Championship match against Jacob Fatu coming up this Saturday. Whether or not we believe the title is going to be taken off of him, he may still have the title. For whatever the case may be, he has to get through Saturday first. And I want to just reflect on a moment that Jacob Fatu has really gotten a huge push. Everything thus far has now turned into wavelengths, and it would be a icing on the cake if Jacob walks out of Saturday with the World Heavyweight Championship, as this is only built up to him. Remember, he was in a feud at the beginning of the year alongside with Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. He returned on the first SmackDown of the 2026 calendar year because of come back after being attacked in the fall and attacked Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes. Cost Cody Rhodes the title. They had a small brief feud. The feud turned back around between Jacob and Drew, which led to WrestleMania. And since his win, he's beginning this singles push that just so happens to be a part of this family oriented. Now, I'm calling this now, and I've called it for the last couple of weeks. I feel like this feud has now been a thing that turns into a family saga for the next year. This is just another story, another chapter that we've been preached about from Paul Heyman all these years. And Jacob Fatu's written into that story. So if you head into WWE Backlash this weekend, the major story is this family. And how is it going to shift? We need a shift. I like it. It keeps me suspensed. I want to tune in just to see how it goes. I hope it's not flat. I hope it prevails. I know it would be twisting a lot of heads. You kind of ask yourself, well, the OTC winning the World Heavyweight Championship, not even a month later, losing it to Jacob Fatu, whatever the direction it would be. Don't forget there is another PLE in Italy between now and then, so he does have a little bit of time if he doesn't lose it then. But I personally, for me, I like this idea of giving Jacob Fatu the World Heavyweight Championship. I think it builds, you don't just have Roman who's been champion. It's not just the Usos or Jay specifically who's been able to climb the ladder and become champion. Solo Sikoa hasn't become champion yet. Jacob Fatu most certainly has not become champion yet. So what you're doing is you're building star power within the family. And the power doesn't belong just to Roman Reigns. Braun Breaker unleashes a brutal attack on Seth Rollins last night on WWE Raw. This is a heading into their match in Backlash, which is going to lead me into my next segment here, but I want to wait for that a little bit more. JD McDonough, with some assistance of Roxanne Perez, and ends up helping picking up the victory against Finn Balor last night. I don't know. I still think Roxanne Perez is coming up to a bigger scheme in the long run. I think Roxanne Perez is on Finn Balor's side. And I feel like we're just going to wait and see for more to come. But the Judgment Day stands tall over Finn Balor as that feud goes on, continues. I thought the WWE hit a popular cap in that feud when Finn Balor brought out the Demon and beat Dominic Mysterio. Right? Usually the Demon is saved up for a big momentum like that. When all else fails, you bring out the Demon. But the Judgment Day is a little bit salty. They don't think that they should have the last word. They think that they should have the last laugh. And until Finn Balor is done, they are going to continue beating on him. So how smart is Finn Balor in this case, asking week in and week out to continue going after the Judgment Day? And how would this ultimately end, would be my question. I feel a ending where Roxanne Perez turns on Liv, maybe cost her a championship, and you see Dom and Finn versus Liv and Dominic, maybe at WrestleMania, or not WrestleMania, SummerSlam. Ethan Page and Rusev defeats Penta and Javon Evans. And as the moment came to life, as Adam Pearce helped Sol Ruca sign a Raw contract last night, Women's Intercontinental Champion Becky Lynch accidentally struck the Raw GM and received a Soul Snatcher from the Raw's newest superstar. So Becky Lynch's possible next direction is coming in the hands of a newly signed Sol Ruca. Joe Hendry defeats Austin Theory by disqualification. Obafemi's challenge as he defeats Otis in the Obafemi's Open Challenge. After seeing the carnage between Roman Reigns and to see the carnage between Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu, I'm glad that Obafemi is nowhere near that right now. We just saw back on SmackDown that Gunther is showing indications that he wants the WWE Championship next. And I am glad that Obafemi is nowhere near that. Now, I got to ask you, where is your power rankings among these WWE talents? Do you think that Gunther is closer to a championship than Obafemi? And how much has the win against Brock Lesnar last month done for Obafemi? Let's be real with each other for a moment. I feel like since beating Brock Lesnar, yes, it's soaring through the skies. He's this next big, ruler of the jungle by all means. But where's the momentum? And the momentum right now we are see each and every week on Raw as Obafemi just annihilates anyone that crosses his paths. And let's be honest, it's nothing anyone special. Grayson Waller was not anyone special last week. Otis is not anyone of means necessary. Now, he's a bigger guy. He is a heavier guy. And a matter of fact, Oba was very smart when he did his powerbomb on Otis last night. He, instead of just being able to push him up, he took him onto the middle turnbuckle and been able to lift him up that way. Work smarter, not harder, right? But I feel like we took in some steps back. You've already beaten the beast incarnate. What is your next victim? And people line up and they are fumbling down. Now, this is probably in line waiting for something bigger to happen, I could only presume. But I am waiting, I'm thankful that Obafemi is not associated with any big names at the moment. Now, we talked about Seth Rollins, and there was a statement that was said to Seth Rollins that I think has to be addressed. So let's have a little bit of fun here in this hour. I want to ask the question of you guys. It's coming from the WWE. Who can you trust in the WWE? If you witness, this is not a battle will and take. All right, who would you go to battle with? Is if you had to align yourself with somebody on the roster, who could you trust and who should you stay away from trusting? Now, this comes after a segment that that Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker had. And it kind of got me thinking, Braun Breaker is like, you have no friends. Seth Rollins has no friends. Maybe he's trying to find friends in the Street Profits, maybe Joe Hendry. But ultimately, Seth Rollins has burned a lot of bridges. The same could be said about Paul Heyman. The one thing that sticks out with these two gentlemen is that they're in business for themselves. And in the professional wrestling world, you learn the hard way that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you're alliance with or who you're enemies with. It needs to be about yourself. This is a independent sport where your success is based off of your productivity. And if you are unable to, if you rely on somebody else, you rely on the next big thing, protection. Then you're going to be SOL. Seth Rollins has done that time and time and time again. And Paul Heyman has done that time before. As a matter of fact, 2 WrestleManias ago, Paul Heyman ended up sabotaging, costing not only Roman Reigns, but CM Punk teaming up with Seth Rollins. So let's ask the question and go down the list. Who can you trust in the WWE? Can you trust? I would have to say The first person that comes to mind that I think is trustworthy in the WWE has to be Rhea Ripley. She spent this past year not only fighting against on the opposite side of the ring with Io Sky, but she has also partnered up with her, defended her at all costs, and throw in Io Sky to this. They are, you could trust them. If you are in alliance with them, you could trust them. They will not turn their backs on you. They will not betray you. They are trustable. Cody Rhodes. Really don't want to be mentioning his name right now, but Cody Rhodes is someone in the WWE that if you had to become friends with somebody, you'd want him on your side. He will protect you. He will not just protect you, but he will stand by you. You could trust him. He's not going to backstab you. He's not going to walk away on you and betray you. He is going to be there, support you through thick and thin. You've seen that through Sami Zayn, and Sami Zayn has turned his back on Cody Rhodes. At least that's what I'm picking up here lately. I know this fraction doesn't necessarily fit the bill, but the Judgment Day is another team that I can trust. If I am their alliance, they are going to come out and save me. As long as it means, it warrants with them. So I could trust the Judgment Day. Who can you trust in the WWE? I can't. I'll tell you who I can't trust. I can't trust Seth Rollins. I can't trust Solo Sikoa. I can't trust Roman Reigns. Hell, I wouldn't even trust the Usos. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing because you can't trust them in the WWE, but I can't trust them because they're about taking for themselves. They're not going to have your back when your backup is against the wall. This is what guys like Jacob Fatu is finding out. This is what guys like LA Knight is finding out. You can't trust them. And that you can't trust them because they take for their own. And that's what this industry is all about taking for their own. So I beg the question to ask everybody here. Let me know down in the comments. In the WWE, who can you trust? Who, if you had to be created ally that will come to your aid every time that you get put into a situation, who is that person? Let's analyze that list. So as you guys think about that, we're going to shift gears over to the WWE or to Major League Baseball. The Cincinnati Reds, they took on the Chicago Cubs last night. Let me get my notes here organized. Cincinnati Reds, look, it wasn't pretty. They ended up losing last night. 5-4 came down to the ninth inning. Where Michael Conforto comes off the bench and hits a walk-off home run. Now, here's the line score. The Reds put up 3 runs early on, got out to an early 3-0 lead. The momentum was swaying back into the Reds side early on. They put up 10 hits on the board. No errors recorded. The Cubs, they put up 3 runs. It was Chase Petty all night long. He went 5 2/3 of an inning. He gave up 4 hits on 3 runs, 2 walks, 1 strikeout, and 1 home run. The Cubs put up 5 runs on 6 hits, no errors allowed. Chase Petty had that one outing. I believe it was in the 4th inning. He walked a couple of batters. That was the only 2 batters he walked to begin the inning. And then he allowed a home run, which tied the ball game. And that's what the Cubs do best. They tie games. When you walk them, they will take advantage of it. Now he was able to go on in another inning and a third afterwards and get out of that jam, pitch a whole 5th inning, and go into the 6th. Chase Petty, for his first outing of the 2026 campaign at the major league level, he pitched very well. I got him impressed. And I think that's one thing that I'm also upset about when you look at the Reds' performance over the last couple of nights. Well, Chase Burns, who pitched on Sunday, went 7 innings, probably had one of his better outings on Sunday, and still lost thanks to the bullpen. JJ Bleday, Key Brian Hayes, guys that are not really making much power to that lineup at the moment. They both hit a home run. But we were up 4-3 in the ninth inning. Emilio Pagan comes in and not only blows his save opportunity, but also allows the game-winning run to come in thanks to a home run by Michael Conforto. And so, realistically, what gets me aggravated is that we're seeing this Reds team and this bullpen starting to crumble down. I understand people has been back and forth off of bereavements and injuries and whatnot, but the question I gotta ask that we have to address, and I don't even know if this is the right way to question or to word this question, but what does Terry Francona need to do to make a move in the bullpen? Is he too loyal? Is he too trustworthy? Is he too reliant on the bullpen? And I say that because the last time Emilio Pagan was in a save opportunity was April 19th. But I've also recognized that Emilio Pagan may not be the solution as our relief pitcher. I am one of those fans who wants our team to be like the Padres or the Dodgers or even the Yankees, where they have one secure closer for the ninth inning. They will not play them until it's a safe situation, and then they will start them. One man designated for one role. And I really want the Reds to be at that position. But that guy needs to execute. Majority of the rest of the Major League Baseball's teams, they don't play that way. They got 2 to 3 guys designated to be filled into that mix. Here's the conundrum. We're paying Emilio Pagan $20 million to be our closer. That was his role during the offseason. But at some point, the question has to be asked if he's living up to that expectation as a closer. And if not, we need to find who can close out the games in the ninth inning, especially when we're facing good teams. The Cubs is a good team. They are expected to win the NL Central. So I see here, and I look at Terry Francona's understanding, and this is from listening to the broadcast, from listening to Terry Francona's post game reports and all that stuff. It comes to a indication that Terry Francona would put in his closer if the Reds was winning by 4 runs or less. And then if they are leading beyond 4 runs, he will not put him in. I like that strategy. I think that strategy works well, but we got to have the right guys in it. So my biggest outcome in this just brief conversation, as much as I like Emilio Pagan, I don't think he is our closer on a night-to-night basis. I understand that Terry Francona wants to not overwork these pitchers. I understand that Terry Francona values right now spreading the workload out, and I appreciate that from Terry Francona. But we need to establish here a month, into the season Who can we rely on going into the ninth inning? And to face it, Emilio Pagan, I do not think is that guy. Maybe he's a situational hitter, a pitcher. Maybe he's better coming in the eighth inning. Can't put my finger on it. But I believe that if we continue to rely on Emilio Pagan going into the ninth inning, we are going to lose 9 out of 10 times. I mean, no disrespect to Emilio Pagan. I'm telling you how it is. I feel like Terry Francona needs to have this backbone that, and I love Terry Francona, but he really needs to be stern with the position. He's already made great deals early on this season. But it's yet again our bullpen who's taken us out of the game, cost us a ball game after our pitching and our offense made it through 9 innings. Sunday's game, our Chase Burns went 7 innings of shutout baseball. Our offense failed. Our bullpen failed. They gave up the solo run. Last night's ball game, we got out to a 3-0 lead. And what else do you expect coming from a guy who was making his 2026 debut? Chase Petty came in. He took care of business. He gave us a solid outing. Matter of fact, you want to compare this outing to the rest of the starters right now available in the rotation. It's one of the better outings, second side to Chase Burns. A lot better than what Brady Singer has done in the past, or even Andrew Abbott. So he held his own. Matter of fact, I'd consider keeping him up at the major league level. Getting another outing. A very tough pitcher going up against a very good team. There was no reason why we couldn't win last night. And reality, I think, has to hit that it doesn't matter what our record says. The Chicago Cubs is one of the elite teams in the Major League Baseball. They're up there with the Dodgers. They're up there with the Yankees. They're up there with the throw in the Guardians or the Braves. How about that? If we are looking to contend in September, if we're looking to compete for a playoff spot, we have to find a way to beat the Cubs. Just like we have to find our way. We're only going to get 2 more series. We have to find a way to beat the Pirates. Is it going to be trusting the process, or is it going to be at the hands of the next moves we make? The St. Louis Cardinals beat the Milwaukee Brewers 6-3 last night. I was tuning in back and forth between these two games. And the thing that St. Louis's broadcast was preaching about is that the Cardinals is a young group of guys that have no rhyme or reason. They have no reason to have 21 wins yet this far this season. And yet they do, because they are believing in the process. They are believing in the situation. I'm not saying that the Reds don't, but don't let the 20-15 record fool you. We have struggles, we have work, and I only hope that this is a division thing. But is it enough to play really good baseball against non-division opponents, to play crappy baseball against your division? Because we are going to see the St. Louis Cardinals at the end of the month. We are going to face the Cardinals on the road, by the way. And with how they're playing, I'm not looking forward to that. And heaven only knows what we will have to deal with when it comes to the Milwaukee Brewers coming up later this season. Now, yeah, they're not playing quite so well baseball. Unless that surpasses us, we do not play well against Milwaukee in years past. So are we in for a rude awakening, and is our success outside the division enough to carry ourselves to a postseason? Right now, I don't think so. Our bullpen needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed now. Game 2 of a 4-game series gets underway tonight. Hopefully, weather does not pin them against them. A 7:40 first pitch as the Cincinnati Reds come into this game with a 20-15 record, going up against the 23-12 Chicago Cubs. Tonight's first pitch is at 7:40. It'll be available on TV at Reds.tv, or you can always listen to it on the radio at WOW 700. The Reds will have left-handed pitcher Andrew Abbott on the mound. He is 1-2 with a 5.97 ERA. Abbott, who last pitched on April 30th against the Colorado Rockies, he went 6 innings, giving up 5 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. He'll be going up against right-handed pitcher Jamison Talion, who's 2-1 with a 4.41 ERA. He last pitched on April 29th in San Diego, where he went 7 innings, giving up 3 hits on 3 runs, 1 walk, and struck out 6 batters. For more information about the game, you could check out MLB.com or visit the Cincinnati Reds website. Let's take a look at the National League Central. As we talked of, the only other game in the NL Central was the St. Louis Cardinals beating up on the Milwaukee Brewers. Final score 6-3. Brewers ended up having an error on 11 hits as the Cardinals backed those 11 hits with no errors. Tonight's ball game, game 2 of the series between Milwaukee and St. Louis, goes on at 7:45. Milwaukee enters in with an 18-16 record. St. Louis Cardinals enter in with a 21-14. At 7:40, we could also, or 9:40, excuse me, the Pittsburgh Pirates are visiting Arizona to take on the Diamondbacks, and the Pirates enter in with a 19-16 record as the Diamondbacks are 1 game under 500 at 16-17. The Cubs move out to a 23-12 record. They are first place, 2 games above the Cardinals, who are 21-14. The Reds are in 3 games back. The Pirates are just 4 games back, and Milwaukee is 4.5 games back. This is going to be a division that is going to fluctuate back and forth. I am waiting, and this could be the very similar month that we see this NL Central take shape into who works and who doesn't work. And we'll see that separation early on. So, are we ready for that? That's going to be the tell of that take. Trying to get my notes for the next segment here. That is your NL Central lookout. All right, let's take a look at what's going on down at the farm as we get ready for another minor league series between between all of our affiliates here. We'll start off with the Louisville Bats in AAA. They will be back home in Louisville, Kentucky, to host the Nashville Sounds. First pitch at 6:05. The Sounds are the AAA affiliates to the Milwaukee Brewers. The Bats will have Brandon Lee Brandt on the mound. He's 0-2 with a 4.45 ERA. The Louisville Bats are second place in the International League West Division, as the Sounds are placed 6 in the division thus far. Sounds come into this game with a 17-16 record, 5-5 over the last 10 games on a 1-game winning streak, and a 5-11 record on the road. Their last series, they split the series 3 apiece against the Norfolk Tides. The Chattanooga Lookouts are continuing their road trip as they head out to Montgomery, Alabama, to take on the Biscuits. First pitch scheduled for 7 p.m. The Biscuits are the AA affiliates to the Tampa Bay Rays and sit in first place in the Southern League South, as the Lookouts sit in the Southern League South, as the Lookouts sit in first in the Southern League North Division. As the Lookouts enter in with an 18-19 record and 4-6 over the last 10 games, the Biscuits come into this series 14-13, 7-3 over the last 10 games, 3-game winning streak, 5-8 at home. They beat up on the Columbus Clingstones 5-1 over the last past week series. And in High A baseball, the Dayton Dragons on the road against the West Michigan Whitecaps. First pitch at 6:35 tonight. The Whitecaps are the single A affiliates the High A affiliates to the Detroit Tigers. Whitecaps are fourth in the Midwest League East, as the Dragons find themselves third in the Midwest League East. The Whitecaps enter in with a 12-15 record, 1-9 over the last 10 games. They have lost 8 in a row, and they are 4-8 at home. They got shut out, losing all 6 games to Cedar Rapids Colonels this past week. That is your minor league baseball down on the farm. Cincinnati Bearcats take action on the field tonight. First base scheduled for 7 p.m. at the Chapman Park in Tulsa, Oklahoma, as the number 20 ranked Bearcats take on the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles out of the Summit League. The Bearcats interplay with a 32-17 record. They are 13-11 in conference play on a 5-game winning streak, and they are 14-11 on the road. They took a series sweep against the Houston Cougars on the road this past weekend. As they get ready to take on the Oral Roberts, the Golden Eagles are 29-17, 19-3 in conference play. They are on a 4-game winning streak, 16-7 at home. They swept St. Thomas on the road. Bearcats, after this game, will begin a 3-game series in Big 12 action on the road against Kansas against the Wildcats beginning on Friday. That is your college baseball showdown. All right. Let me go ahead and here is a good. So yesterday, and I don't have anything set up for this, but yesterday we learned that Tariq Schoolbowl will be missing at least a minimum of 2 to 3 weeks. Um he will be undergoing bone spur removal in his throwing elbow. Now, this is a common practice this season, actually a lot more common than normal. Um, as you know, this is, if you want to know the comparison, this is the same surgery that Hunter Green has had. The recovery all depends how big these bones are, how close to the muscle they are, how close to the tendons they are, and also how tolerable is the pitcher able to get back into pitching. The good news for the Cincinnati Reds, we've seen Hunter Green, who actually went into the season with this situation, and he ended up going into spring training having this surgery, so we could see him back expected between about the month of July, as long as everything goes well for him. But Tariq Schoolball is in a critical position because he's coming into his final contracted year with the Detroit Tigers. Now, the Detroit Tigers has made out evidence that they want to make another push, and they haven't really performing the way that they should be performing this season, which is now leads to the question: the future of Tariq Schoolball, who's expected to be a free agent next season. Well, what does this do for his free agent chance? Well, let's look at what does this do for the Detroit Tigers. Replacing one of the best pitchers in baseball, if not the best, is never easy, but trying to do it so early in May is even more difficult. It's very true. Schoolball, leads is the ace for the Detroit Tigers. Yeah, you have Verlander, you got Rainbow Valdez, you got Flaherty, you got Casey Mize. Uh, so, uh, Rotations currently consist on Framber Valdez, Jack Flaherty, Keter Montero, and Casey Mize, and then Ty Madden is on the IL list, expected to fill. Casey Mize is on the IL list. Let me get that correct. Ty Madden expected to fill Schoolball's position for the immediate future. So I was trying to annihilate this. Okay, I think this is a contract year. A lot of pitchers like to go into this year. They play their best of the best so that they could build a resume. Tariq Schoolball has a resume. And we really don't know how long is this going to affect Schoolball. He could be back before the All-Star break, or he may be out for the rest of the calendar year. I don't doubt that Schoolball is going to get looked at. This is not Tommy John surgery. I don't feel like this affects the ability to throw, maybe just the recovery, as much so as if you had Tommy John surgery. Tommy John surgery could change a life, right? You may never be able to pitch the same again. But now looking into free agency, does the questions pop up if you're another team out there? Would you want to deal with a Tariq Schoolball? Would he be a injury prone to the future of your organization? And is that a risk that you would want to take? My brother texts me all the time. What about the Padres making the deal? Um, I think, the Dodgers definitely tipping his hat in. I think when teams analyze the risk factor and then some teams back out of that, you'll see who's available. But for me, I'm instantly, if you're the Detroit Tigers, I don't think this affects Tariq Schoolball. Maybe a little bit of pricing, but I don't like unless the surgery doesn't go okay, unless there is risk for him to actually have Tommy John surgery in the future, then I think that as long as he could recover, I take my chances, and you should know well into the offseason how Tariq Schoolball looks ahead, whether or not he pitches in a Tigers uniform at the major league level again, or he pitches for another team. The idea is that he would pitch and you would analyze him. If I'm the Tigers, I would at least make the effort to throw out a contract offer. If I'm another team, the Dodgers immediately won. The Yankees should be one. The Padres, I would consider. Um, there's many teams, the Braves as well. I really do not think that this is going to financially hurt a team by taking that risk on him. So I don't think that it's going to affect his offseason, his free agency, maybe just a tad, but nothing that's going to be too out there in the open. All right, real quick, MLB, NBA playoffs continue last night as the Knicks took game one, 137-98. The Timberwolves also beat and took game one, beating the Spurs 102 to 104 to 102. NBA playoffs begin and continue today with the second round. Game one tip off tonight on NBCS at 7 o'clock as the Cavaliers take on the Pistons. At 8:30 on NBC, the Lakers take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. All right. Wanted to end our conversations off with talking a little bit about football. We're well beyond the draft. Now our designation is to summer camp. And, you know, I was kind of thinking about this the other day and how we looked at the quarterbacks. Well, for you got really don't know what the quarterback situation is for either Pittsburgh or for Cleveland. What we do know is that Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson are going to be for their teams this year. So the question I ask is Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow? As a matter of fact, this article came from the stripehype.com, who is presenting itself. Reported Lamar Jackson's contract woes are in win-win-win for the Bengals sales. Well, remember the Lamar Jackson controversy that the Ravens had years ago? Matter of fact, I still believe it kept them out of the playoffs that they practically handed to us, and that was because they didn't know the future with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson wasn't going to put himself out there to continue getting hurt, jeopardizing a future. Well, what's the difference between Lamar Jackson and between Joe Burrow? And I feel like that is a very clear direction. Lamar Jackson has the speed. Lamar Jackson could throw, sure, but he uses his ability and agility to move around the pocket, to get outside the pocket, and to be able to rush yards. Reminds me a lot like Russell Wilson, Colin Kaepernick. Joe Burrow is able to analyze and stay in the pocket and make moves within his surroundings. Sure, he can get out of the pocket from time to time. He's not no luxury fast person. But which one would you take over? Someone who can move outside the pocket or someone who can stay in the pocket and be so do you prefer a Russell Wilson or do you prefer a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning? with the right receivers, I'd say Tom Brady caliber type player. And Joe Burrow reminds me a lot someone like a Tom Brady. He stays in the pocket, he reads the field, he makes audibles according to what he sees on the field, and then he plays towards that. Kind of a redundant question, and I'm not trying to be biased here, but you know, we're trying to, Lamar Jackson's success finds himself outside the pocket running majority of the time. You take that away from him, what does he have? Can he stay in the pocket? Can he take hits? Can he, throw the ball down the field consistently 40, 50 times a night? And I just feel like there is a more sturdiness between Joe Burrow. Now, this is nothing against Lamar Jackson. I like him as a player, but what does this create for Lamar Jackson? Well, you have a new head coach. The ball's now in your corner. I feel like Lamar Jackson got exposed this offseason. After learning about the passing of John Harbaugh, not the passing, but the departure of John Harbaugh to the Giants as a free agent, letting him go, bringing in a new coach, and the owner said, look, we're going to invite you. You can have a weigh in opinion, but we're going to make the ultimate decision. Really put Lamar Jackson out there saying, hey, if you are a quarterback and you are our quarterback that wants to lead our team into the future, then we need you to be here. We need you to be present, and we need you to be active. I think that called him out. I think that honestly said, look, either you're going to be here or we're going to find someone who wants to be here. This is not your team anymore. You're not calling all the shots. You will earn the right. You will earn the responsibility. But in the meantime, we will make the final decisions, which ultimately led something to a rare sight in him showing up to spring camp. Taking leadership, taking accountability and acknowledgments. That is very important. So to me, Joe Burrow fits the bill. Now, no one's perfect. I'm not asking them to be perfect, but it's the leadership. And I think if the Bengals do decide, hey, we are going to renegotiate his contract or restructure his contract, Burrow is not losing anything. He's moving things around so that we can open up salary cap. I think that just shows what type of better quarterback you have with the Cincinnati Bengals compared to the Ravens. And that's why ultimately I say, the Bengals have a better chance to being the best team in the AFC North with that completion. They just have to be able to show it on the field. There was also another article that pointed out here, following the NFL draft, the comparison, this was on CincyJungle.com, and it was basically comparing Cassius Howell compared to Max Crosby. There's been a lot of names that's been lingering around the Cincinnati Bengals this offseason. Max Crosby was the first name that was mentioned by Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, as someone who they would like to see possibly as a Cincinnati Bengals. Now, we know this earlier in the offseason that the Ravens was looking to pick up Max Crosby. Medicals did not clear, and the Bengals had to make a very big analytic choice. And the choice was made that we're going to move into our draft. So, they went with the second round defensive end, Cassius Howell. Liked him a lot. 10th overall pick, was traded for Dexter Lawrence. Now, when we look back, let's compare Max Crosby to who we picked up. Howell's game drew a comparison of Max Crosby, according to ESPN, Jeremy Fowler, who says the anonymous AFC scout was one of the more compare of the two. Said the most comparisons between these two best attributes had in the motor skills. Crosby is famous for going full bore while playing every snap. Howell is similar to in that regards to Crosby. Doesn't have the elite bend that some of the other rushers have, but he is absolutely relentless and will play a long time in the NFL as a result. Howell sacked 11 and a half sacks last season while winning the SEC's Player of the Year award. He may have shorter arms than Ruben Bain, but Howell fires the passion for the game or something in comparison, it doesn't really matter. Many fans wanted the Bengals to trade for Max Crosby so they would all be thrilled with if Howell came to Cincinnati's better. So my question is to you is who's the better? Did we pick the right selection by not signing and trading for Max Crosby so that we could get Cassius Howell? Is Dexter Lawrence better choice than Max Crosby? And I think one of the red flags that instantly brings me to cautious side of things for Max Crosby has to be the injuries, has to be the medical exam. I don't know what the report says. I don't know what it entailed. Maybe I don't even need to know. But that's just knowing that there was a reason why the Ravens had to back out of that deal because the medical examiner saw something, threw up red cautious flags. Now, I'm not saying that Max Crosby is not a great talent. He's not going to fit a team. He's a great player, but we don't need to go out of our way to find someone that's going to be injury prone unless, maybe, it just takes one bad snap here in Cincinnati in game one, and now we don't have them all year long. Well, if Cassius Howell is very similar and is, what's the very good traits in Max Crosby? Well, he is great. Likes to play every snap. He has the power. He has the speed. Just his relentless, the resilience that he has, I think brings a lot to the table. Cassius Howell is younger than Max Crosby. Has the same traits, and the only thing that we're really giving up is the arm length. To be honest, I'd take that any day. Honestly, maybe beat him at the first step, and we will have ourselves. So you think about it, Dexter Lawrence, and you think about Dexter Lawrence, who we traded for, how as we picked up in the draft, stacking ourselves up with multiple defensive linemen, I think only betters our case. So I don't want to call it an early win, but I think, playing it safe by not picking up Crosby was the better decision, and finding ourselves in the decision of, all right, hey, let's go ahead and pick up, do our due diligence and at least go with someone who resembles maybe him at the college level. And Cassius Howell does that. So in your opinion, has Cassius Howell it was a better selection than following through Max Crosby this offseason? Let me know down in the comments. It's interesting. We're going to start learning here shortly if these players actually pay off. If the payoff is there or if we made the mistake. Dexter Lawrence, Mafe, Cook, and it looks great on paper. It's all about executing on the field. And I'm excited to see the opportunity. If you told me back at the January that this was, if you asked me if my excitement was there, I want to say no. I said I had no anticipation to being excited about Bengals football this year. But seeing their offseason moves, seeing the risks that they made, seeing the comparisons of what we could have selected and the missed opportunities, man, let's sprinkle some of that fairy dust over the Cincinnati Reds, right? But that is all the time I have for you guys for today. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and I appreciate everyone for watching this video. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Please have those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. You could also follow us on our social media platforms. We're on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. You could also download this episode at TNC Sports Talk. We're on every audio platform, wherever you get your podcasting needs on. We are there. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, so much more. If we're not on there, let me know. We'll be on there. Get on there shortly. But happy Cinco de Mayo. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully with some better news with Reds baseball. We'll have more sports conversations, and looking forward to getting halfway through the week tomorrow. But until then, my name is Justin. This is the TNC Sports Talk, and you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.